Hey everyone, let's talk about Ana Mon Amour. It's a Romanian film, a psychosexual love story about the destructive effects that codependency can have on a romantic relationship. The relationship in question being between Ana and Toma, who in the beginning of the film fall in love as literature students and quickly start building a life together. Ana has a complicated family life. She is of Moldavian descent. She grew up in a rural area with her mother and her stepfather, and her stepfather allegedly might have actually abused her when she was a child, and to make matters worse, she suffers from a mental condition that frequently causes her panic attacks. Toma's parents, while being a little bit more on the civilized side, let's say, are incredibly judgmental and they are not willing to accept Ana because of her illness, which they view as a permanent disability and as a burden to their son. But Toma, on the other hand, gives Ana his complete support and actually does take her to several doctors in an attempt to help her battle her disease. But the two of them over time will start isolating themselves more and more from their families and their friends, and the relationship will eventually go downhill. The whole film is presented to us in a very atypical and non-chronological fashion, solely through the point of view of Toma, and the film literally mimics a psychoanalytical session, one that Toma is literally attending. The film is constantly cutting back to this session he is having with this therapist, where he is relating events that took place during the past 7 or 8 years of his life, during these years he has spent with Ana, and he is basically having the stream of consciousness. He is relating events, trying to figure out how they interconnect, how they influenced each other, trying to reinterpret them in a very cause and effect sort of way. And an attempt by him to try to understand what exactly happened and how could their relationship go so awry in such a bad way. This film is pretty unique when it comes to Romanian cinema. It's one of the more expensive productions to come out in recent memory. Allegedly some scenes required more than 1,000 extras. Filming took place for over about 43 days, which might not sound like that much, but trust me, for a Romanian film that is actually a lot. The editing, for which it won an award at the Berlin Film Festival, and deservedly so I might add, is also something quite new and refreshing. The whole structure and temporal framework of the film is something that actually no one really seems to have tried before in Romanian films. Most of them are pretty straightforward and streamlined. And what's more, it's based on a novel. Now, we have had one film last year which was also based on a book, but still it continues to be something incredibly uncommon, at least it has been for the past 15 years. Now, 3 people have worked on this script: the original author of the novel, the director who also writes, and one of the actresses who also writes. Now, all 3 of them have stated that this film is not an adaptation of the book. The book was more of a launching ramp. Only a couple of scenes were lifted directly from the book, and the 3 of them actually came up with brand new stories for their characters together. And what's more, the film is incredibly intimate and graphic. Like, the nudity and the sex in this film is almost on the level of something like Love or Nymphomaniac. The big difference being that there's much less of it here, first and foremost, and the other big difference is being that allegedly it was simulated sex, it wasn't real. Now, I don't know how well you can simulate an ejaculation on camera, because yes, that does happen in the film, but whatever. The filmmakers really tried to create this very sort of hourglass structure for the film, in the sense that our 2 main characters by the end of the film actually end up basically switching roles. They end up being on the opposite end of the spectrum in comparison to where they were in the beginning of the film. The director has actually said that he believes, or that he has read, that neurotic people have this sort of attraction for each other. They complete each other in very peculiar ways, and this would explain why Anna's illness makes Toma stronger in the beginning, because for him, in a strange way, like, caring for her, taking care of her, actually makes him feel very useful. But when Anna eventually starts getting better, when she embarks on this sort of therapy that's a kind of mixture of faith and psychoanalysis, especially after she gets pregnant, she becomes a stronger person, her condition gradually starts improving, and Toma is actually incapable of progressing along with her, and she basically ends up surpassing him in every single way. Now, this is all fine and dandy. I thought this aspect of the film was quite interesting. It did keep me interested all throughout during its 2-hour running time, so that's okay. But there was one major problem I had with this film, and that has to do with empathy. Now, the director has said that he really tried to create this very fluid dynamic in which both of these characters are simultaneously right, but at the same time neither of them are. And I don't really think that came to fruition. I don't really think that's true for both of these characters, because Toma, I think, is a little bit more consistent. His motivation motivations are more clear and easy to understand, and so is his insecurity. Now, some of that is admirable, some of it is not, most of it might not be, but Anna, on the other hand, quite interesting. She's the one who actually, I think, becomes less and less relatable and less likable during the film, especially during the last act. Now, what happens in this last act, in a nutshell, with spoilers, is that he suspects her of infidelity. He asks her about it, she doesn't want to talk, so he stalks her, he sees her with another man, he confronts her about it, she still doesn't want to talk, and then after some time passes, when it is apparent that they are on the verge of calling it quits, of getting a divorce, she eventually confesses that she is not having an affair. The man she has been seeing for about the past year is actually her real father, who has came back and reconnected with his daughter. And the reason why she didn't want to tell this to her husband is that she was afraid that he will start to want to control her again. First of all, that's a very cheap twist there, movie, okay? Second, why the hell would you not want to tell your significant other something like this? I mean, she sees how suspicious he is, and she sees all the pain this is causing him. Why the hell would she prefer for him to suspect her of infidelity rather than tell the truth? And third, this whole him trying to control her thing, I really don't buy it. I mean, they keep saying that this is the case in interviews and in the film itself. We are told that this is the case, but there's no any clear indication that it is. Just as there's no clear indication that Anna is in any way a character we should be feeling empathy for. Now, initially I thought that this might have been intentional, but the more and more I think about it, I actually think that we were actually supposed to like these characters, and that was my major problem with the film. I didn't like these characters. They were actually major assholes to each other. And this is one of those very rare occasions where I kind of wish that the film was a lot more faithful of an adaptation of the novel. I think this choice to focus more on the psychoanalytic side of things was a little bit of a mistake. The novel allegedly focuses much more on the social side of things, on the ethics side of things. They actually allegedly they try a lot of methods to battle Anna's illness, like religion and psychotherapist. And of course all of these things are peppered throughout the film as well. I mean, God knows the scene in which Vlad Ivanov is playing a priest is absolutely hilarious for sure. But these scenes never really truly feel like they are leading towards something. I mean, sure, there are good scenes, I get it. I mean, there's a scene in which Toma, Anna, and Toma's parents are attending a religious ceremony, and Anna, bless her soul, is just incapable of attending. She is constantly having these panic attacks, but she is trying her damnedest. She is putting in a tremendous effort to attend, and she is just incapable. But many of these different scenes, they feel like they're out of different movies, and that could be due to the film having 3 different writers who did work together, did collaborate, I know, but it's just possible that they might have had different visions, and it's possible that their visions didn't exactly gel together as they thought they did. I mean, this really shouldn't feel like different movies. This should feel as cohesive as possible, precisely because we are seeing everything told from a single character's point of view. And there were also a lot of scenes that could have been cut, let's face it. I mean, there are a lot of big name actors in this film, and I love most of them. I mean, I like seeing them in films, but many of them show up for one single scene. Like I said, Vlad Ivanov, I mean, his scene is very funny, and I actually enjoyed it. But Răzvan Vasilescu, for example, who again, still an actor I love very much, but is basically a cameo, and after all of these cameos, the whole film just started feeling like cameos galore. I think this film suffered from wanting to be a little bit too ambitious for its own good. They should have simplified it a little bit, because this film wants to be so many different things at the same time. It wants to be very sexual, but at the same time it wants to make you feel uncomfortable. It wants to be this very refined piece of work, but at the same time it's very chaotic. It wants to be ambiguous, but at the same time very self-explanatory. It wants to be very profound and deep, but at the same time it has jokes and it's making fun of things. And I don't know, I think it wanted to have its cake and eat it too. I enjoyed it watching it once, so I do recommend it. It's quite interesting. It might not be my cup of tea necessarily. Some critics are praising it. Some of my friends hate this film actually, so it's very, very in between, very mixed bag. I would recommend it. Check it out for once if you're interested in it. I don't know. Thanks for watching, folks. My question to you would be, what is your favorite erotic film? Really curious to know. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can see you later with other reviews. Until then, folks, stay cool, stay awesome. Goodbye.